Continuing on with chapter 12, we have more ways to use the future tense. So now that we've got the future under our belt, we can learn a few more complicated ways to use it. So, of course, we will go over the exercises from the end of the last unit. And this was an exercise where werden means different things in different contexts. So it's important to recognize what else is going on in the sentence to translate werden correctly. So, Nummer eins, wird es am Abend kalt? And so you see that's the only verb in the whole sentence. Es is a pronoun, am Abend is a prepositional phrase, and then kalt is an adjective, right? So when wird, which is conjugated for es, and werden, when werden is the only verb, it has to mean becomes, and here we're in the present tense. So you could say, does it get cold in the evening? Or is it going to get cold in the evening, maybe? Yeah, so any of those, it could still, because you have am Abend here, it could, if it's the afternoon and you're talking about the upcoming evening, you could say, is it going to get cold in the evening? Wird es am Abend kalt? Or in the normal present tense, like if you're asking every evening, does it get cold in the evening here in general? So either of those would work, but the important thing here is that get or become. I said get here. But you could also say, does it become cold in the evening? Except for that sounds a little much in English. So I say, but it means the same thing. To get cold, to become cold, it means the same. So does it get cold in the evening? Is it going to get cold in the evening? Is it going to become cold in the evening? So wird here means become. Ich werde nie alt is, of course, a similar situation. Werde is the main verb. There's no other verb happening. So I'll never get old, or I never get old, or I never become old. So here I use get as well to mean become, but both of them are fine. I'll never become old, I'll never get old. Möchte Krankenpfleger werden. So now we have werden. It's at the end, so it's paired up with another verb, which is möchte, which is one of our modal verbs. So the modal verb is möchte, which means he would like to, and then he would like to what? He would like to become a nurse. So he would like to become a nurse. So the thing is, the modal verb is just a helping verb. The modal verb isn't like the main verb. The main verb, when you make a modal verb sentence, you have the modal verb in the second position, and then the main verb, which is the verb that really carries the meaning, that's at the end. So werden is still acting as the main verb here, even though there are two verbs happening, but werden is the one that actually has the meaning to it. And then the helping verb is just over here. So he would like to become a nurse. He would like a nurse to become. Ich werde Medizin studieren. Now this is different, right? Werde is used as the helping verb, and then studieren is used as the main verb. So when we have conjugated werden in the present tense, plus the infinitive at the end, which is the main verb, then you get the future tense. I will study medicine. Ich werde Medizin studieren. It's like saying, this is my plan. I will study medicine. Wir werden reich sein. We will be rich. So it's the same thing with the conjugated werden present tense on both of those. And then sein is your infinitive at the end of the sentence, very much like studieren, sein, which is, of course, we will be rich. We will rich be. We will be rich. Beim Lernen werde ich müde. Now, werde is the only verb in the whole sentence. Lernen it's a verb, but here it's turned into a noun, as we've learned how that works. So beim Lernen is sort of like saying while studying, at the studying, or while studying. Werde ich müde, I get tired. So I say, I get tired while studying, I become tired while studying. So werde here means become, and it's not the future tense, it's the present tense. Sie werden Erfolg haben. Now that we have werden plus the infinitive at the end, we know that's going to be a future. And then it's either you will have success in the formal, or maybe they will have success. If this, the S, you don't know because it's the beginning of the sentence, it could be that they, but of course in a context you'll be able to tell. Will have success. Werden Erfolg haben. Okay, so then we have a few more predictions. unser Lebensstandard wird höher sein. Oh, we have a comparative here too. That wasn't that long ago we did comparatives. So now you know what höher is. It's higher, right? So our standard of living will be higher. Wird höher sein, so will be higher, and the B is at the end. And then wir werden weniger Energie verbrauchen, so we will consume less energy. Werden as the will, and then verbrauchen, consume. So we will consume less energy. Die Menschen werden nicht mehr arbeiten. The people will not work anymore. So people will not anymore work. People will not work anymore. Es wird uns besser gehen. It will go better for us, as in it will be going better for us is also a good one, or we will be doing better. So es wird, it will to us better go. It will go better for us. And then I think the most natural way to say it is, of course, we will be doing better, but that's not the word for word translation. But the important thing is that wird means will and gehen means go. So alle Krankheiten werden heilbar sein. All diseases or all illnesses will be curable. So werden, they will, all diseases will, and then sein meaning be, and then heilbar, curable. Okay, so we have, that was our normal future, but there's a slightly more complex way to use this, and that is when you want to talk about something that will have happened. So it's sort of like you're talking about the future and the past at the same time. You're talking about a future in which there will be a past that is actually still in the future. So it's hard to explain. You just have to look at examples. So bis zum Ende dieses Kapitels werden wir die neuen Verbformen gelernt haben. It's all very back to the future, like what's the past, what's the future. So by the end of this chapter, we will have learned the new verb forms. So the present right now is looking into the future, and it's talking about a future in which learning the verb forms, it was the past, but both of those are still in the future. So in English, will, have, learned, we've got 3 verbs, one after the other. And in German, we also have 3 verbs involved to make this. So conjugated werden, just like before. So that's as you would expect. Wir werden, we will. And then for the other 2 verbs, you want to use you want to think about how you would make the perfect, how you would make that perfect tense, right? So you would say, wir haben gelernt, we have learned. So in order to make the rest of it, you need to think about what that participle is, and then whether that participle uses haben or sein as its auxiliary helping verb. So you could say, wir haben gelernt. That way you know that you're going to use gelernt and then haben as opposed to sein. So then you just need to know the word order. The word order you need is werden in the normal verb position, as in the second position. And then you want your participle second to last, and then your helping verb all the way at the end. So it's like saying, by the end of this chapter, will we, the new verb forms learned, have? So we will have, in English, we put all the verbs together right here, will have learned. But in German, will is here, and then have learned is at the end. So, wird das Buch in weniger als 2 Tagen gelesen haben. He will have read the book in less than 2 days, or maybe even fewer than 2 days. So, wird das Buch, he will, wird, seems easy enough. And then in English, we would continue on with these other 2 verbs, have read. But in German, you say everything else you need to say in the sentence. And then we're going to save these 2 verbs to the end with the participle second to last, and then the helping verb. And then you think about, okay, how do I say we have read? Or how do you say I have read, doesn't matter who. You say, ich habe gelesen. Ich habe gelesen. So gelesen is going to be your past participle. And then the end, of course, it's going to be double infinitive. So haben or sein, they're always going to be in their infinitive forms there. Double infinitive at the end. Sorry, it's not. It's always infinitive. It's participle, then infinitive, not double infinitive. Participle, then always infinitive at the end. Because you're only going to have one conjugated verb. That's werden over here. That's the only thing that gets conjugated. And so this, at the end, haben or sein, always infinitive. Ein guter Student wird die Prüfung innerhalb von einer Stunde beendet haben. So a good student will have completed the test within an hour. So a good student will have completed the test within an hour. And then und gleich nach Hause gegangen sein. So and then will have gone home immediately. So immediately home will, or we already have will. So immediately home have gone. Yeah, so it's weird to conjugate sein as have, but that's, will have gone. Have gone. Ich bin gegangen is I have gone. So that's just how it is. So the thing is, wird beendet haben, will have completed. That makes sense, right? And then the thing is, we don't have to repeat the wird because it's also going to apply to that next set of verbs. But then this is the part where it gets a little tricky because you have to think about ich bin gegangen, I have gone. That's how you make the perfect. So then you have to use that past participle and the corresponding helping verb. And so you still have to conjugate that as have. Will have gone home. Yeah. Okay. So then we have a bunch of time expressions that really tip you off to the fact that this might be happening. Things that people usually say in these type of circumstances. So we have bis zum Ende der Woche, before the end of the week, or up as was the bis zum Ende der Woche, bis zum Ende dieses Kapitels is a very similar one. By the end of this chapter, by the end of this week. At some point before the end of this week. In weniger als 2 Tagen, in less than 2 days or fewer than 2 days. Innerhalb von einer Stunde, within an hour. Innerhalb is like within, inside of an hour. And then gleich, yeah. So gleich, right away. So we have something like auf die Dauer, in the long run. So you can say in the long run, we will have accomplished this. Bis nächstes Jahr, bis 6 Uhr, so bis means until, but in this context we would say by next year we will have done this. By 6 o'clock this will have happened. Yeah, so bis normally until, but then here like up until that point, sometime before that point. Bis zum Ende des Monats, by the end of the month. It's like until to the end of the month. It's just until the time comes and sometime before that, by the end of the month. In 3 Wochen, in 3 weeks, same as English, and then in der Zukunft, in the future, same as English, with the prepositions. Gerade, it means just now, I've just now done it. Or it can be I've just now done it, or it can be I'm doing it right now. Ich mache das gerade. Was machst du gerade? That's a very common question. Was machst du gerade? What are you doing right now? Gerade. So depending on the verb tense, it can mean right now or just now. Immer wieder, over and over. We had that already not too long ago with the comparatives. Mit der Zeit, with the time. With time, yeah. With time, you will use your adjective endings. With time, you will get so comfortable with adjective endings that you will spit them out spontaneously and they'll be correct. With time, you will have learned your adjective endings. There it is with the future and past together. Yeah. Mit der Zeit wirst du deine Adjektivendungen gelernt haben. That's what it would be. And then nach 5 Minuten, after 5 minutes, this will have happened. Nach und nach, after a while, it's a little idiom. Noch nicht, not yet. So we will not have done that yet. Schon already can indicate that as well. 12 Uhr, you can just name a clock time as well, at 12 o'clock, very straightforward clock time. And then, wenn es soweit ist, when the time comes. When the time comes, we will have done this. Okay, and then participles can also be adjectives. So this can look very similar, but it's a slightly different thing happening. So in this case, the predicate adjectives always occur with sein to describe a state of being. So we can look at these two sentences that are actually very similar, but the meaning is ever so slightly different. Wird den Versuch 10 beendet haben. He will have completed the experiment at 10 o'clock. So he will have completed the experiment at 10. So that's just like the other ones we were looking at. That's the normal future perfect, future past, right? But then this next sentence is a little different. We have almost the same verbs, except for instead of haben, we have sein. So der Versuch wird 10 Uhr beendet sein. And then we also have changed the subject and the direct object. So the experiment will be completed at 10 o'clock. So it will be completed. And so basically the verbs in this context are wird and sein are the verbs. Beendet is not actually acting as a verb at all right here. It's acting as an adjective because we can use past participles as adjectives, right? Es ist beendet. It is completed. Es ist beendet. You can say, right? So that's the kind of beendet that's being used here. And that's why it's with sein, but normally it would be with haben. Yeah. So it's a very subtle thing. And because the subject is different, I don't think there's too much danger of like translating this wrong. The experiment will be completed versus he will have completed. Yeah. So I think this is still pretty parallel to English. Wird, will, and then sein, be. And then if you just make sure that you think of beendet as an adjective instead of a past participle, but I don't think it makes a huge difference. And then there's a great word called wohl, and it's used with the future a lot to describe probability. You might have people say jawohl, which is just emphasis like jawohl, like it's even more than ja, yeah, like indeed, yes, yes indeed, jawohl, right? And then wohl is also used in zum Wohl, which is a way to cheers. Like the standard word for cheers is Prost. You may know Prost, but also zum Wohl is another thing people say when they clink their glasses together, and that means to your health. Wohl actually goes back to the word for health. Wohlsein means well-being. So wohl has many uses. So you may have seen it in other contexts, but in this context, we're going to talk about wohl meaning probably. So we have wohl and maybe schon, and then doch also does similar things. So we will look at the future perfect plus wohl to express probability in reference to the past. So das wird wohl das Ende dieser Arbeit sein. This will probably be the end of this work. So, or this is probably the end. Yeah. So it's it looks like will be, and you can. It's like it will be, as in we don't know yet. It hasn't. The information hasn't come out yet. By the time we know, it will be the end, but we don't know yet. But it's referencing something in the present, even though we will only find out later. So in that sense, it's like the future, right? So this is probably the end of his work. We don't know yet if it is the end of his work, but in the future we will know. So that's why it's in the future. I know it's like pretty hard to conceptualize. But wird wohl is actually going to be in the present is. And then we have the is over here as well. Sie werden das Buch von Goethe schon kennen. You probably already know Goethe's book. So it's like when you say this to someone, you don't know whether they know this book or not. And so you say your sentence. You probably know Goethe's book, but you haven't heard their reply yet. So the reason it's in the future with werden kennen is because their reply is going to be in the future, so you're sort of referencing like, oh, you will know this, right? And then they reply, and then you're like, yeah, well, I was right. You do know it, but it's like still referencing the future. It's pretty hard to explain. So werden schon kennen, you will already know it, but you can translate it as present. You probably already know it. Werther wird die Gefahr wohl nicht erkannt haben. Werther probably did not recognize the danger. So this one is like very hard to conceptualize because it looks like the future, but then it's got erkannt haben, so have recognized. He will have not recognized, but then it's with the vor here, it means more. The vor and the wird together just mean probably in the present. Probably did not recognize the danger, but then we've got the past over here. Yeah, so these are pretty rare, but they will show up sometimes. This is, of course, from Goethe's Die Leiden des jungen Werther, the sufferings of young Werther, Goethe's most popular novel. So, sein Freund wird wohl den Brief gelesen und die Situation gleich erfasst haben. So here we have wird plus wohl, and then we've got past participle, and then we're going to do a whole other phrase with past participle and then our helping verb. His friend probably will have read the letter and figured out the situation immediately. Yeah, so in this one it's will have read. We're just talking about something that is in the future but with the perspective of the past. Okay, so we're going to review the uses of werden we've been talking about for the last few units. So werden, when it's a main verb, it's English to become or sometimes to get. So die deutsche Filmindustrie wird immer wichtiger. The German film industry is becoming more and more important. Immer wichtiger, more and more important. So is becoming is wird here. And then if you put werden plus zu, it means to turn into, because it's like become. It becomes when you become something else or become someone else, then zu is sometimes added. So when it means to turn into or like transform into, then it can be werden plus zu. Der unbekannte Schauspieler wurde zu einem großen Star. The unknown actor turned into a big star. Wurde zu. Yeah. So that's like anytime there's a transformation, you can say werden plus zu. And then werden plus wohl infinitive is also, there's another way to use wohl here. So this one is not quite as, it's similar to those ones we were looking at before. So probably will going to infinitive. Das Studio Babelsberg wird dieses Jahr wohl 10 bis 20 Spielfilme herstellen. So this one is just, wohl just means probably, and we don't have to really mess with the verb tenses too much because it's still just in the regular future. Wird herstellen, will produce, and then wohl you can just translate as probably. Will probably produce. And then werden plus past participle, this is the passive, which we haven't got to yet, but it's coming up soon, Kapitel 13. So that's the next chapter already. We will get to the passive. And the passive is very versatile and useful in German. So that will be great when we get to the passive. And so we have, for example, der neue Film wird von Detlef Bock konzipiert, geschrieben und produziert. So is being, it's like the film is like what's being acted upon, and then this part that's actually inside a prepositional phrase is the doing the action. So don't worry about this too much yet because we're going to do it soon, but just know that werden plus past participle is the way to construct the passive. Okay, so now we will do the exercise on the following slide before moving on to the last bit of the 12th chapter. So we have some sentences in the future. I think that is it. Yeah. So just a few sentences in the future for you to translate. They're with werden in slightly more complex situations than before. So have fun with those. Und wir sehen uns im nächsten Video. Bis bald. Tschüss.